So I thought I'd start this video in the same way that I started this walk, with some photography, and it's pretty rare to have an opportunity to get such a great photo within 2 minutes of where you park your car. Now, it's worth mentioning that this isn't the type of landscape photography that I was expecting to do on today's walk, but I couldn't resist this scene. It's such a lovely waterfall, and you have that huge slab of rock that sort of leads in from the left-hand side of the frame with all of that really colourful sort of algae and moss. And I think that just makes for such a striking element of this composition. And then you have the waterfall that sort of leads from the top of the frame and hopefully leads the eye all the way through down to the bottom right. Now, moving water is always a great subject, and there was an opportunity as well to get a slightly more abstract shot, zoomed in into the cascade itself, and really here it was just about the colour contrasts. I liked how that crystal blue water was kind of contrasted against the orange and brown tones of the rocks. But anyway, like I said, this isn't the type of photography that I was hoping to do today, and you'll see why as we go through this video. Everyone, welcome back to another video from a very moody North Wales, but I'm not complaining. I absolutely love these conditions, and today I've come to somewhere that I've wanted to bring you guys to for a long time. It's a really cool location, and I thought today we can go and explore and take a look back at the history, or I suppose the evidence of the history of this part of North Wales. So this location is pretty much all about the mining history of this valley. We're in a place called Tanagrysiau, which is just outside the village of Blaenau Festiniog, and the actual valley and the quarry works that we're going to explore are called Cwmorthin. And I absolutely do want to get right stuck into some of these old sort of abandoned buildings, but I did, as I was kind of walking around this lake, you might be able to see my tripod set up down here, but there's all of these lovely kind of boulders on the shore of the lake, and what I wanted to do was just get like a really nice minimalist composition, just looking all the way across the lake to the other side of the shore where we've got all of the mountains, and there's some nice mood and atmosphere. The rain has started to fall, so that could be a little bit problematic for the shot, but it's just kind of isolating this lone boulder here, using a polarizer to cut through the water a little bit, but not fully polarized, because I do want to have a little bit of shine just to add a bit more of that minimalist feeling to the shot. And yeah, it's turned out to be quite a nice image, I think. So not necessarily what I was thinking that I'd be shooting at this location, but a nice kind of added bonus. Shows you the importance of always being open-minded when you come to visit these sorts of places. So the rain has really started to come down now, which I think just adds to the mood and drama of this location, because it's quite eerie with all of these abandoned buildings, but it's fascinating, so great to explore. This is exactly the type of landscape photography I enjoy, and it has made me think about what landscape photography means to me, not just in terms of like a definition, because I think there's many definitions for landscape photography, but when I think about why landscape photography is important and why it's important for me in my work, it's something that locations like this always make me realise, and I just thought I would share some of that in today's video. Now, being from North Wales, I'm very lucky to have these types of landscapes at my disposal. And being from North Wales, you know, speaking the Welsh language, my whole family grew up in the very heart of North Wales. There's also a sort of historic significance of, you know, these types of locations that for me, I'm just always drawn to. And whilst I still love traditional landscape photography, you know, there's nothing wrong with taking a great photo of a nice view and a nice vista, that sort of traditional landscape photography that most people would think of when they think of landscape photography. I think that is very well and good, but I think for me, when I'm in these types of locations, having the opportunity to photograph a landscape that also tells the story of the history of that landscape, I think that's where the real value in landscape photography can be. It's that point when landscape photography kind of becomes documentary photography, because the ability to document these landscapes I think is really, really valuable, because as we know, the natural world, the landscape, it's ever changing, it's ever evolving, and there will come a time where it will be completely unrecognizable. And I think being able to just document that change and being able to showcase the significance of how these landscapes change, I think it's something that is super valuable. And I think it's where landscape photography really has a lot of merit. Now, landscape photography is pretty niche in the grand scheme of things. I think when most people think of photography, they probably wouldn't put landscape at the top of the list. They'd probably say something like portrait photography. But I do believe that landscape photography needs to be respected and it needs to be recognised, because the images captured in a landscape, especially in landscapes like this, where there is so much history and cultural significance, documenting that landscape, I think, is really, really valuable for generations to come. It makes people aware of what is around them. You know, landscape photography is the documentation of the natural world and the world around us. And because of that, I hold it in very high regard. And it's one of the things that I love the most about pursuing landscape photography, is that I get to experience all of these places and share those with other people. And I think to a lot of people, landscape photography is just photographing the landscape, the natural landscape. But for me, I don't necessarily just adopt that definition, because I think now especially there is a resurgence in people doing photography where they are melding the natural landscape with the man-made elements of, you know, the world as it is today. I think James Pops is, summarizes it nicely as kind of the human nature sort of, I guess, juxtaposition. And I think that's really great. I do think it's important to showcase how, you know, we as people, as the human race, have, you know, kind of impacted these landscapes, and being able to, you know, showcase that, I think, is really important. I'm just not a purist, I think, when it comes to landscape photography. You know, I don't mind photographing the natural vista, the natural landscape, you know, untouched by man. But locations like this always get me excited, because I feel like that's where the real story is. So behind me here is the old chapel at Cwmorthin. This is probably one of the most iconic places in this valley, and it's just so remote, it's so interesting, and it's really sort of well photographed. There's a main composition which I'll put up on screen, which is the sort of path leading to the chapel through the valley. You get the pine trees, you get the sort of makeshift slate fences, and it all kind of acts as like a leading line to the actual chapel. It's a great composition, but I think here it's well worth exploring different opportunities, because I do think it's nice sometimes to try and, I guess, put a different perspective, a different view on, you know, some of these very iconic, well photographed buildings. So I'm just kind of exploring the hillside and the sort of little, I guess, what would have been like a garden. It's all very walled and sort of enclosed in, but there's definitely other photos to be had here. So I'll put a selection of those up on screen. And yeah, it's just such a beautiful place. Even on drizzly days like this, it's perfect. Absolutely perfect. Love it. So to round things up, I think taking photos of the natural world, the natural scenery, is absolutely great. But I think for me, I'm sometimes just striving for some deeper meaning in a lot of my landscape photos. And it's that idea of just finding stories within the landscape. And that's why locations like Cwmorthin are just always going to captivate me, because there's so much history and there's so much potential there in documenting how that landscape has impacted the community around that area, and also how that community has impacted that landscape. It's that symbiotic relationship, I suppose, that just makes for I think, interesting photos. These are all the things that I think about when undertaking photography projects and creating bodies of work, is that there always has to be a why. There always has to be a reason and a meaning behind taking photos and collating a body of work together. And I guess adopting this approach and thinking about the landscape in this way, in the end, I think will make for more interesting and potentially more impactful photography. So, as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this video interesting. If anything, I hope you enjoyed just coming along with me on a rainy adventure in North Wales to photograph a really cool location. Would love to hear your thoughts down in the comments below about this topic. Is landscape photography important to you, and do you consider landscape photography to be an important genre? And as always, just let me know what you think of the video, what you think of the photos, all that good stuff. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all next week for a very special video involving some of you guys.